Welcome to the Business of Apparel Podcast. This is the place to learn how to start and scale your own apparel brand and fill it with loyal customers for years to come. I'm your host, Rachel Erickson, owner and CEO of Unmarked Street, and I can't wait to share this episode with you. Welcome back to the Business of Apparel Podcast. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the difference between fashion freelancing and what I've learned a lot about fashion freelancing, and the difference between that and being a higher end consulting agency in the apparel space. So something that I've been doing, which has been really, really fun this summer, is going to a lot of different seminars from people out in the fashion freelancing space. I mean, technically, I am a fashion freelancer, right? I am a fashion designer. I work in the fashion industry and I do freelance work. And we don't really call it that here at Unmarked Street. We've always called ourselves consultants, and we aren't necessarily just a solo operation. Like, I'm not just a single freelancer that owns this business, but I actually have other people on the team who are better at me than a lot of the things that we get to do. And so we call ourselves a consulting agency. And so that ends up being one of the bigger differences as I'm starting to learn a lot about the nuances of fashion freelancing. And something that came up in an amazing interview that I did back at the end of 2023, I was talking to Andrew Jagola from Apparel Mark. If you haven't listened to that 2-part podcast series that we did back at the beginning of December in 2023, it is a fantastic conversation to go listen to. A lot of what we talked about is still very, very relevant in the world of fashion and apparel today. And something that he said to me, I don't know if it was during that interview or while we were prepping, but we were talking a lot about this kind of army of fashion freelancers that are going out in the world and trying to get freelance jobs, working with smaller brands, working with bigger brands, going in and taking temp work off of people's plate and kind of filling some of these roles. And as I've been learning a lot more about how those, what he called armies, are being created, is that there are a couple of really experienced, really smart, really amazing mentors out there who are doing an amazing job at encouraging people to go out and pursue their fashion career if that's what they want to do. And there's something so beautiful about what is being taught in this space. And I don't necessarily want to name names today because I don't want people to feel like I came out in this episode and said anything negative, or if I say something that maybe isn't appropriate or something that isn't aligned with what they want to put out into the world. So I'm not going to name names today. We're not going to name exact programs. There are several out there that I've actually attended some of these workshops of. I was actually looking to see if I could learn something from these people in the way of boosting our freelancing and consulting business. And in every single seminar or workshop that I've taken from these people, I have absolutely learned something. The difference has been that a lot of the people who are coming into the fashion freelancing space, a lot of them are very, very new to the fashion industry, period. And they have a passion for it, and they have a love for it, and they have a great eye, and they all want to learn as fast and as much as they can so that they can be high-end fashion freelancers as they kind of move through their careers. But I'm noticing that a lot of these people are, number one, they're either still in school, and so they're exploring whether or not they want to even go into the corporate fashion industry right away. And they're exploring what it might look like to do freelance right off the bat. But one of the things that I'm noticing while they're doing that is the questions that they're asking and the lack of industry experience is not giving them the leg up that I personally feel like they're going to need when the time comes to handle the type of client issues that are going to come up for them. For example, we are dealing with a client this week, a cycling apparel brand who has a new jacket coming out, and we are really having a hard time getting some of the fit just right. And this has been a little bit of a communications issue. We're just kind of going through a transition with this brand. It was a style that Unmarked Street took on at the very, very end of its iteration. So we're learning a lot from the fact that maybe it's not a good idea for us to step in right when you receive a pre-production sample. Maybe we allow you to kind of finish the work that you've been doing. We'll take on new things. But anyway, like for us to be able to go back through and understand what exactly their issues were that they couldn't fix throughout their entire process just by listening to a couple of different conversations, getting a handful of samples, measuring them for them, and then putting forward our suggestions to make a much better pre-production sample without industry experience or without my 20-year background in the fashion industry or without my 10-year decade experience working on cycling apparel, making the mistakes, knowing what might go wrong, knowing what fixes those mistakes, knowing how to move forward. Without that experience, it would have been almost impossible to help them get through this project and really figure out what the next step was. So there is a little bit of kind of greenness that comes out of some of these programs and the type of people who are in here. In one of the seminars that I attended most recently, I actually heard someone even asking, like, what is a tech sketch or what is a tech pack? And the mentor in the group did an amazing job of explaining that and being really patient and like telling the group exactly what it was and the differences between a tech sketch and a tech pack and how to do them in Excel versus Adobe Illustrator. And it was handled extremely well, but it kind of got me thinking, like, for the kind of work that we do at Unmarked Street, we were asking what a tech pack was and learning what a tech pack was 2 decades ago. And so we've not just learned what those things are, the differences, but we've honed and mastered our skills to make some of the most beautiful tech packs and tech sketches that I've ever seen in the industry. And so not to like toot our own horn here. I mean, even though I definitely always want to toot our horn because I think we are an amazing apparel consulting agency, it is definitely something that kind of stuck out to me. And so if you are a brand out there and you're looking for people to come in and fill freelancing roles, what I wanted to kind of give you today was a little bit of a differentiator, how you can definitely find some of these newer people who are taking on these fashion freelancing jobs and the kinds of tasks that they might be able to do for you at a low rate. You can get them done pretty cheaply. Or the kinds of things that you probably want to hire someone who's a little bit more expensive, but a lot more experienced and can definitely come in and take a lot more off of your plate. So the thing that I've been hearing consistently over and over again is that Upwork is a really great place for these fashion freelancers to go. It's something that we haven't explored a ton at Unmarked Street because a lot of the jobs on Upwork are a little bit small for what we want to be doing. And a lot of the people are putting out jobs that don't actually match up with our hourly rate or our project rate. And so we're considering maybe going over there and checking some things out and seeing if we can zhuzh that a little bit, because it does sound like it's such a good space to go look for work in the fashion industry. But if you are a brand and you're looking for someone to do a tech sketch for you, maybe you're looking for a textile design, maybe you're looking for someone to turn your hand-drawn sketch into a really professional Adobe Illustrator sketch and you're not sure how to do it yourself. Maybe you're looking for a tech pack, or maybe you're looking for a pattern engineer, or actually a lot of them call themselves pattern makers, not pattern engineers. Pattern engineer would probably align itself a little bit more with what we're doing at Unmarked Street. We're not just making patterns, we're actually engineering the pattern to fit the body better, because that's what you have to do in performance apparel. You can't just put a typical pattern down. Throughout a lot of the work that we've learned how to do over the last 20 years, there is absolutely an engineering aspect, and the shapes are very different than you expect them to be when it comes to fitting proper performance apparel. So there's a little bit of a difference there too between pattern maker and pattern engineer. So if you're looking for things like that, number one, head over to Upwork, put out a job description for what you're looking for. There are going to be quite a few people on there who are going to be able to pitch you for a job, tell you a little bit about their rate, tell you a little bit about themselves, give you their expertise. And that is a great way for you to find someone who can maybe come in at a low rate and do something for you on kind of on the cheap, especially if you're on a budget. So that is definitely one place to look. LinkedIn is another place where people are really being encouraged to go communicate with people, network with people, kind of nurture conversations. And so if you're looking for people to do some freelance work in the way of fashion, LinkedIn is another spot for you to go to. And you can look up fashion freelancer. I think a lot of people are trying to put that in their descriptions now so that you can search for that and find those people. The difference in being a high-end consulting agency that we do at Unmarked Street. So for example, if you hired a fashion freelancer to build a tech sketch for you and you hand drew something, and that's kind of, and it's coming out of your ideas on what you want for a pocket on this style. You put a pocket on from this jacket over here, but you've got the collar from that jacket and the body from like a totally third jacket, and you kind of hand drawn those sketches, or maybe you're just sending them those photographs and you say, take this pocket, take this collar, take this body. They can definitely do that sketch for you. The difference that you're going to get at a high-end agency like Apparel Mark or like Unmarked Street is we're going to be able to tell you if any portion of that sketch is not going to be workable in your production run. So right off the bat, you're getting an advantage by working with someone who has done this for a really long time, by them being able to give you the advice of whether your construction is, number one, even doable. Like if maybe you're not a sewer, or maybe you've just learned how to sew, or maybe you've been sewing for a really long time, but home sewing can be very, very different from what a factory on a production level can do. And so understanding like the order of operations, and when I say order of operations, that means like a factory puts together a document that says step 1 is to sew the front to the back. Step 2 is to sew the center front zipper in. I mean, those probably aren't the actual orders of operations, but they have this document that says exactly what needs to happen in what order to make sure that that piece is sewn as efficiently and as high quality as possible. And that's, of course, if you're working with a high quality factory, which I always super suggest. And so if you aren't working with someone who understands order of operations, or who understands that, putting this seam here is not actually going to work because it's going to get in the way of the seamstress sewing the pocket that you also want on the back. Like those are the kinds of things that a higher end agency is going to be able to call out to you right away so that you can judge that sketch into something that is going to be more producible and more sampleable before you even go out and ask your factory for a prototype. And the reason why that's important is because, especially when you're starting out as a brand, every single prototype costs you money. And so if you are putting forward a sketch and you're having it just built into a tech sketch or a tech pack, and you aren't 100% sure if it's actually doable, you could be going through 3, 4, 5 different prototypes just trying to get it right because your fashion freelancer that you're working with doesn't understand that the order of operations doesn't work and doesn't understand how factories are actually functioning. And so they're not able to give you the proper advice. So those are the kinds of things that, like at Unmarked Street, when we get hired to do just a tech pack, we are not experienced just with 20 years of building tech packs. We are also experienced with 20 years of pattern making and 20 years of product development and 20 years of working with production teams and 20 years of working with high-end quality factories. So when you're asking us to just build that tech pack, not only are we doing that actual task for you, but our brains are thinking about all the things that you might not know or might not understand so that we can advise you on how to make it even better. And then on top of that, we're going to give you that advice basically for free. So if you're hiring us just to build you a tech pack, yes, our tech packs are going to be a lot more expensive, probably than a fashion freelancer, but that's why. It's because you are getting that extra information from us. And it's because you are getting the most high-end, most professional tech pack that you can possibly get. It's the type of tech pack that billion-dollar apparel corporations are using on a day-to-day basis. It's the type of tech pack that the highest end, best quality factories love to see from their clients. It includes everything. And so when we're also giving that to you, we're giving you our knowledge on grade rules. We're giving you our knowledge on what measurements should be. We're giving you our knowledge on how to display best the kind of construction that you want in your tech pack. So all of that comes with a higher end agency. Now, everybody needs something a little bit different, right? So, of course, I can go and say, yes, a high-end agency and getting all of that extra information is the best way to go about, regardless of the size of your company. You just need to figure out how to pay the extra money. But that's not always true. And so sometimes it is really helpful to not pay the $850 for a really high-end tech pack. Sometimes it's easier for you to pay the $100 for a lower-end tech pack and work your way through it over time. And that just has to be something that you need to be able to decide for yourself and decide for your brand. But what I wanted to do today was just kind of give you the difference of what those two things are. So if you are looking for someone to help you build these small things for your brand, know that there are definitely resources for you on an entire spectrum of prices and experience levels. And if you're looking for someone who can give you a really low price, there are a lot of people out there who can give you a quote, give you an amazing pitch, and who are going to dedicate themselves to getting that work done the best that they possibly can. There are also people like us here at Unmarked Street who are going to get it done for you fast, efficient, and absolutely accurate, because that's what we've been doing for the last 2 decades. If you have any questions on this, or you'd like to know a little bit more about apparel consulting versus fashion freelancing, please let me know. I would love to answer your questions. And of course, if you're interested in getting any work done with us here at Unmarked Street and taking advantage of our 20 years of knowledge, please reach out to us. You can go to unmarkedstreet.com anytime. There is a huge apply now button up in the right-hand corner of our website, which you can click to fill out an open client form for us today. As soon as you fill out that form and we understand just a little bit about you, we'll be able to get back to you with next steps, which usually includes just a little bit more information about us. And it includes a Calendly link so that you can set up a meeting with me to figure out exactly what it is that you need. If you like this episode and there was anything about it that you wanted to share, please leave us a review and tell a friend about it. We appreciate it. See you next week. Thank you so much for listening to the Business of Apparel podcast. I would so appreciate hearing your thoughts on the show. And if you know someone who could benefit from it, please share it with them. My biggest desire is to help other apparel professionals understand the nuances of our industry so we can all work toward making better product for a better world. If you would like to connect further, I'd love to invite you to send me a message through my website, thebusinessofapparel.com, where I do weekly trainings through my YouTube video channel, a weekly newsletter, blog articles, and so many more resources to help you start and scale a profitable apparel brand. This podcast is produced by Box 7 Media, who I cannot speak highly enough of. If you're looking to start your own podcast, you can reach out to Jeremy at Box 7 Media on LinkedIn anytime.